Tonight, we uncover the mystery of ancient stargates, structures so perfectly aligned to the heavens that they weren't just temples, they were gateways. Gateways to a deeper connection with the cosmos, where the movement of stars, the rising sun, and the cycle of the moon were woven into the very fabric of sacred space. These weren't just buildings, they were celestial maps, designed by cultures so in tune with the sky that they turned it into a tool for power, ritual, and even prophecy. But why did they do it? What secrets did these alignments hold, and why were they so carefully hidden in plain sight? Across Egypt, Mesoamerica, the Andes, and beyond, ancient architects used the stars as their blueprint, constructing monuments that whispered of gods, time, and the universe itself. Yet, as centuries passed, many of these stargates were forgotten, their celestial purposes lost, their designs misunderstood. But the truth is still out there, waiting to be revealed. So, before we dive into the heart of these cosmic mysteries, make sure to like, subscribe, and hold on to your curiosity, because we're about to explore a world where stone, sky, and the divine are more connected than you ever imagined. For thousands of years, humanity looked up and did not see empty space, but order, rhythm, and meaning written in light. Long before telescope satellites or written equations, ancient builders treated the sky as a map, and the earth as its reflection. Temples were not only places of prayer, they were instruments carefully positioned to mirror the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. When people today speak of ancient stargates, the word does not mean a doorway for travel through space. It describes something more grounded and more powerful, a designed connection between ritual space and the heavens, where stone and sky met with precision. This idea is not fantasy. It is supported by archaeology, architecture, and astronomy working together. Across continents, temples face specific horizons, not at random, but toward moments when the sky changed in ways that shaped survival, belief, and power. The rising of the sun on a solstice, the return of a star after absence, the first full moon of a season, these events marked time itself. In worlds without mechanical clocks, the sky was the only calendar that could not lie. Ancient cultures learned to read it with patience measured in generations. A temple aligned to the sky became a fixed point in time where heaven appeared to speak to earth. This was not about worship alone. It was about control of knowledge. Whoever could predict the sky could predict seasons, floods, harvests, and rituals. In ancient Egypt, priests tracked the heliacal rising of Sirius, which signaled the coming flood of the Nile. In Mesopotamia, observers recorded the paths of planets, believing they carried messages from the gods. In the Americas, stone complexes marked solar extremes with stunning accuracy. None of this required advanced technology. It required observation memory and geometry repeated year after year. The temple became a memory device carved in stone. When light entered a doorway on a specific day, it confirmed that order still held. This is why alignment mattered so deeply. A misaligned temple would fail to speak. A precise one would turn light into authority. Over time, these places gained reputations as points where the human world touched the divine order above. Not because energy flowed through them, but because meaning did. Standing inside such a structure during a rare alignment created certainty. The universe was structured, predictable, and listening. That experience reinforced belief systems and social hierarchy. Kings ruled by cosmic approval, priests interpreted the signs, and people followed. Modern researchers using astronomy software have confirmed many of these alignments were intentional. The angles match ancient skies, not modern ones, showing builders accounted for slow changes in the heavens. This tells us they were not guessing. They were mapping time. A stargate, then, was never a machine. It was a moment. A planned meeting between architecture and the sky, designed to happen again and again across centuries. As we begin this journey, the question is not whether ancient people understood the heavens. The evidence says they did. Long before lenses, glass, or magnification, humanity learned to measure the heavens using nothing more than patience, memory, and the landscape itself. The sky was observed not in moments, but across years and generations until patterns became reliable. Ancient observers did not need telescopes because they were not searching for distant detail. They were watching movement, rhythm, and return. The simplest tool was the horizon. Hills, mountains, and distant markers became fixed reference points where the sun, moon, or stars rose and set. By standing in the same place each day and watching where light touched the horizon, changes became obvious. A sunrise drifting north or south revealed the approach of solstice. The full cycle could be mapped by memory alone. Another essential tool was the gnomon, a vertical stick placed in the ground. Its shadow length and direction changed throughout the day and year, creating a natural clock and calendar. From this simple device, ancient people learned, when midday occurred, how long days were growing and when seasons shifted. Archaeological evidence from Egypt, Mesopotamia, China, and Mesoamerica confirms widespread use of shadow tracking thousands of years before written astronomy. Sightlines were the next step. Builders aligned walls, doorways, and corridors toward specific horizon points so that celestial events could be seen repeatedly from a controlled position. This transformed observation into architecture. Once a sightline was fixed, it removed error. The sky either aligned or it did not. Repeated observation refined accuracy. Ancient cultures recorded results through oral tradition ritual and later inscriptions. Errors were corrected over time. Alignments that failed were adjusted, rebuilt, or abandoned. This slow process produced remarkable precision. Modern measurements show many ancient alignments are accurate within a fraction of a degree. That level of accuracy is possible without advanced tools when observation spans centuries. Counting days was also essential. Lunar cycles were tracked using notches, stones, or knots. 13 lunar months approximated the solar year, requiring periodic correction. This led to early calendar systems tied directly to temples. The temple became a place where time was reset. Priests or specialists announced when festivals, planting, or travel should begin based on sky observation. Knowledge was guarded not because it was mystical, but because it was powerful. Predicting the sky meant predicting survival. Measuring the heavens was therefore a social act. It required agreement, shared memory, and continuity. When a temple aligned perfectly, it proved that knowledge had been preserved correctly. The sky confirmed the builders were faithful to the past. No telescope was needed because the goal was not exploration, but synchronization. Earth and sky were being kept in step. This disciplined watching created confidence across generations and allowed sacred centers to function as reliable anchors in time-linking community memory labor cycles and belief into one shared rhythm that endured long after individual observers were gone, even as leadership changed, climates shifted, and the sky itself slowly drifted beyond a single lifetime of human memory, leaving stone as the final witness for future human eyes. Temples did not face a direction by accident. In the ancient world, orientation was a language. Stone spoke through alignment, and every angle carried meaning understood by those who built and used these spaces. When a temple faced east-west, north, or south, it was making a statement about time, origin, and authority. Archaeology shows again and again that sacred buildings were carefully positioned in relation to the rising and setting of celestial bodies. This was not decoration. It was design rooted in belief and control. To face the rising sun was to face renewal order and beginnings. To face the setting sun was to face death, transition, and return. These directions were tied to myth, but also to the calendar. A temple aligned to a solstice sunrise marked the turning point of the year. This allowed priests and rulers to declare when seasons changed. That declaration shaped planting, harvesting, taxation, and ritual life. Orientation therefore encoded time into stone. It made the building itself a permanent calendar visible to all. Myth was also built into direction. Many cultures believed the gods travelled along fixed paths in the sky. Aligning a temple to those paths made it a meeting place between human and divine order. In ancient Egypt, temples often faced the path of the sun, god Ra reinforcing the idea that the king ruled by cosmic approval. Mesopotamia temples rose as stepped platforms facing the heavens where gods were believed to descend. In Greece, sanctuaries were positioned so that light entered at meaningful moments tied to the deity worshipped there. These choices were deliberate and consistent within each culture. Orientation also served political power. When a ruler sponsored a temple aligned to the sky, it signaled mastery of knowledge. The ability to predict celestial events gave leaders legitimacy. People trusted those who seemed to command time itself. When light entered a sacred space on the expected day, it confirmed that authority was still valid. This made the temple a public proof of order. Even cities followed this logic. Streets and civic buildings were often aligned with cardinal directions or solar events, extending sacred order into daily life. This blurred the line between religion and governance. The world itself appeared organized under one system. Importantly, orientation required planning long before construction. Builders had to observe the sky for years before laying foundations. This meant temples were not just religious centers, but long-term projects, preserving knowledge across generations. The direction chosen locked that knowledge into the future. Even when the original builders were gone, the building continued to teach. Modern surveys show that these orientations match ancient skies rather than modern ones confirming intent. They were not symbolic guesses. They were measurements. Sacred buildings faced a direction because direction was meaning. It told people when to act, what to believe, and who held power. In stone and light, ancient societies encoded their understanding of the universe and placed themselves within it. A temple did not simply stand on the land. It pointed. And in that pointing, it shaped how people understood time order and their place beneath the sky. Ancient Egypt was built on the rhythm of the sun. Along the Nile, the rising and setting of light governed life, death, and power. The annual flood, the growing season, and the survival of the state all depended on predictable solar cycles. Egyptian temples reflect this reality with remarkable clarity. They were not placed randomly along the river. Their main axes were carefully aligned to the horizon where the sun rose or set on meaningful days. This alignment connected kingship to cosmic order. The pharaoh was not only a ruler of land, but the guarantor of Maat, the principle of balance and harmony. When the sun rose exactly where the temple pointed, it confirmed that order still held. One of the clearest examples appears at Karnak, where the main axis aligns with the winter solstice sunrise. On that morning, light travels deep into the temple complex, illuminating the sacred center. This effect was not accidental. Archaeological surveys show the alignment was maintained even as the complex expanded over centuries, beginning in the Middle Kingdom around the 20th century BCE. Each generation respected the solar path laid down by its predecessors. This continuity turned stone into a calendar that outlived individual reigns. Temples like Luxor were aligned to reinforce royal legitimacy. Processions timed to solar events linked the living king with the eternal cycle of the sun god Amun-Ra. In Egyptian belief, the sun died each night and was reborn each morning. The pharaoh mirrored this cycle through death and rebirth in the afterlife. Orientation made that belief visible. The temple faced the horizon where rebirth occurred. Even funerary temples followed solar logic. The Great Pyramid itself aligns closely with cardinal directions, showing mastery of observation as early as the 26th century BCE. The Egyptians used horizon, watching gnomons, and long-term observation to achieve this precision. They did not need instruments beyond the landscape and memory. The Nile Valley offered a stable horizon ideal for solar tracking. This allowed priests to predict solstices and equinoxes with confidence. Control of this knowledge strengthened state power. When priests announced festivals tied to solar events, the population obeyed, because the sky confirmed it. Solar alignment also unified religion and politics. By tying temples to the sun, the pharaoh presented himself as chosen by the cosmos, not merely born to rule. The architecture reinforced this message daily as light moved through space. Modern archaeoastronomy confirms these alignments match the ancient sky, accounting for slow astronomical change. Egypt's solar horizon was not symbolic guesswork. It was measured belief turned into stone. Through orientation, Egypt built a system where time, authority, and divinity rose together with the sun each day. This system endured for millennia because it worked. Light arrived when expected. Seasons followed pattern. The state appeared eternal. Even as dynasties fell, the temples kept time, reminding all who entered that the universe itself endorsed order, continuity, and rule along the river. In Egypt, stone did not challenge the sky, it obeyed it. Karnak is not a single temple frozen in time. It is a record of centuries of observation written in stone and light. Built and expanded from roughly the 20th century BCE through the final centuries of ancient Egyptian rule, Karnak grew layer by layer, while preserving one guiding principle: alignment with the sun. What makes Karnak unique is not only its scale, but its consistency. As pharaohs added pylons, courtyards, and halls, they did not reset the orientation. They obeyed it. The central axis remained fixed to the rising sun at the winter solstice. This decision required discipline across generations. Builders could have shifted direction to suit new rulers or designs, but they chose continuity. This turned Karnak into a long conversation with the sky. Each expansion amplified the original intent by extending the path of light. On the solstice morning, sunlight enters the eastern gate and travels through. successive pylons illuminating deeper sacred spaces. The effect grows more dramatic as the complex grows larger. Light moves through architecture, like a measured signal confirming time has reached its turning point. Archaeological surveys confirm this alignment is precise. It matches the ancient horizon as it appeared thousands of years ago, accounting for precession and landscape change. This proves intent, rather than coincidence. Karnak functioned as a solar calendar at monumental scale. It allowed priests to confirm the solstice visually without instruments. This mattered deeply because the solstice marked renewal. In Egyptian belief, the return of longer days symbolized the victory of order over chaos. By tying this moment to Amun, the state linked cosmic renewal to religious authority. Karnak was also political theatre. Processions along the axis during festivals reinforced unity between God-King and cosmos. When light reached its mark, the ritual was validated. The people witnessed proof that their rulers remained in harmony with the universe. Importantly, Karnak shows that astronomical knowledge was not lost or replaced as dynasties changed. It was preserved and respected. Even foreign rulers, such as those during the Ptolemaic period, continued to build within the same alignment. This suggests the solar logic had become inseparable from the identity of the site. Karnak was more than a place of worship. It was a timekeeping machine operating once per year with absolute authority. The architecture removed debate. Either the sun aligned or it did not. That clarity made Karnak powerful. Modern researchers using digital reconstructions have shown how sightlines were carefully managed. Walls, columns, and doorways were positioned to frame light rather than block it. This required advanced planning and understanding of geometry. Karnak demonstrates that ancient Egyptians treated light as a building material. It was shaped, directed, and scheduled. The temple did not simply house rituals, it produced moments. Across centuries, the same sunrise returned to the same point, reminding each generation that they were part of a larger order established long before them. Karnak's long conversation with light reveals how ancient architecture could speak across time without words. Stone remembered what people could not. Light returned on cue, and the message remained unchanged. Order endures. At Abu Simbel, architecture does not wait for the sky, it summons it. Carved directly into a cliff during the reign of Rameses II, in the 13th century BCE, this temple was designed so that sunlight would perform a precise act only twice each year. On those 2 mornings, light travels through the long entrance corridor and reaches the inner sanctuary, illuminating statues of the gods and the seated pharaoh. This was not decoration or chance. It was engineering guided by astronomy. The dates align closely with what are believed to be moments linked to royal significance, possibly the king's coronation and birth. What matters is not the exact interpretation, but the precision required to make this happen. The temple corridor stretches deep into the rock, yet light reaches its target without deviation. Modern measurements confirm the alignment was intentional and remarkably accurate. Abu Simbel turns the sun into a ritual participant. For most of the year, the sanctuary remains in shadow, reinforcing its sacred separation. On the appointed days, light breaks that boundary and touches the divine images. This transformation would have been overwhelming for ancient observers. The gods appeared to awaken. The pharaoh was momentarily unified with them through light. This was power made visible. The design required long-term observation of the solar path along the horizon. Builders had to account for the sun's angle and seasonal movement before carving began. Once cut into stone, there was no easy correction. This means the planning phase carried enormous importance. Knowledge had to be correct before action. Abu Simbel also shows how interior space mattered as much as exterior orientation. The temple was not simply pointed toward the sun. Its internal geometry was calculated so light would travel uninterrupted. Columns, doorways, and statue placement all served the same goal. Even one error would have broken the effect. That level of control shows that ancient Egyptian builders treated light as something that could be shaped like stone. The site also reveals the political role of such events. When light illuminated the pharaoh alongside the gods, it reinforced his divine authority. The timing did not need explanation. The sky delivered confirmation. This removed doubt and debate. The people witnessed cosmic approval in real time. In the modern era, Abu Simbel was relocated during the 20th century to save it from flooding caused by the Aswan High Dam. Engineers carefully reconstructed the alignment, preserving the illumination phenomenon. This confirms how well understood the original design was. The light still reaches the sanctuary on nearly the same dates, proving the ancient calculation was sound. Abu Simbel stands as one of the clearest examples of ancient solar engineering. It shows that temples were not passive monuments, but active systems designed to interact with celestial cycles. For 2 days each year, stone opened itself to the sky, and time paused long enough for light to speak. In that moment, architecture became calendar ritual and authority at once. Abu Simbel reminds us that ancient builders did not merely observe the heavens, they invited the heavens inside. In Mesopotamia, stone rose toward the sky with intention. Between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, early cities understood that power flowed from above as much as from the land. Here, temples weren't hidden interiors, but towering platforms called ziggurats, designed to bridge earth and heaven. These structures dominated the skyline because they were meant to be seen from far away and aligned with the movements of the sky. Mesopotamian religion held that the gods communicated through celestial signs. The sun, moon, planets, and stars were not distant objects, but active messengers. To read them correctly was to rule wisely. Ziggurats served as elevated observation points as well as sacred spaces. Built in stages, they lifted priests closer to the sky, allowing clear views of the horizon. This was practical as much as symbolic. Clay tablets from cities like Ur-Uruk and Babylon show systematic recording of astronomical events as early as the 3rd millennium BCE. Eclipses, planetary movements, and lunar cycles were carefully noted. These records fed into calendars used to time rituals, agriculture, and political decisions. The temple was the center where this knowledge was gathered and interpreted. Orientation mattered here as well. Many ziggurats were aligned to cardinal directions, reflecting a desire to impose cosmic order on the city below. The gods were believed to descend along fixed paths, and the temple marked the point of contact. When an omen appeared in the sky, it was interpreted within the sacred space of the temple. This gave priests immense influence. Kings relied on them to understand divine will. In return, temples reinforced royal authority by framing the king as chosen and protected by the gods. Stone and star worked together to legitimize power. Unlike Egypt, where solar order dominated, Mesopotamian belief focused on change and warning. The sky was not always benevolent. An eclipse could signal disaster. A planet appearing in the wrong place could mean rebellion or famine. This uncertainty made accurate observation essential. Temples functioned as control centers where chaos could be interpreted and managed. The famous Enuma Anu Enlil collection shows how deeply astronomical signs were tied to state decisions. The ziggurat at Babylon, dedicated to Marduk, stood as the axis of the world in Mesopotamian thought. Its height and orientation symbolized the link between heaven, earth, and the underworld. Archaeology confirms these structures were rebuilt repeatedly on the same footprint, preserving orientation across centuries. This continuity shows that alignment was not optional, it was foundational. Even as empires rose and fell, the relationship between temple and sky remained fixed. The ziggurat turned observation into architecture. It elevated knowledge and made it sacred. People looking up saw stone reaching toward the stars and believed the gods were listening. In Mesopotamia, the sky did not bless silently. It spoke through signs, and the temple existed to hear them. Stone and star together shaped a civilization that believed survival depended on reading the heavens correctly. Babylonian astronomers understood the sky as a clock and a calendar. Long before mechanical timekeeping, they tracked the moon planets and eclipses with astonishing precision. Their observations were systematic and recorded on clay tablets using cuneiform as early as the 21st century BCE. These records show careful attention to the phases of the moon, predicting lunar months and reconciling them with the solar year. Temples were the centers of this knowledge. A temple was not only a house of worship, but a laboratory for observation and calculation. Priests used high platforms, sight lines, and horizon markers to track celestial events consistently. They timed rituals, festivals, and agricultural cycles according to what they read in the heavens. The movement of the moon determined months, and intercalary adjustments kept calendars in sync with the solar year. Planetary positions were also noted. Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn had particular importance and were interpreted as messages from the gods, influencing political and religious decisions. Eclipses were especially significant, and considered omens that required immediate attention and ritual response. Babylonian scholars developed procedures to record and predict them over long cycles. These calendars were not abstract. They dictated when kings could lead campaigns, when temples held ceremonies, and when the population should plant or harvest. The orientation of temples reinforced this sky-based order. Some temples faced specific rising or setting points of key stars or solstices, so that sunlight illuminated inner sanctuaries on precise dates, visually confirming the calendar's accuracy. The Etemenanke ziggurat and other major Babylonian temples acted as anchor points where sky knowledge became tangible. By observing the sun and moon from elevated platforms within the temple precincts, priests verified the alignment of time and ritual. This combination of architecture, observation, and record-keeping created a system where the cosmos regulated human activity and reinforced social hierarchy. Kings and priests relied on these predictions to legitimize authority. Babylonian astronomy was iterative and cumulative. Observations recorded in one generation were studied and refined by the next, creating continuity across centuries. Tablets from the first millennium BCE show the results of decades of careful measurement, forming one of the earliest known long-term scientific records. The precision achieved without modern instruments is remarkable. Alignments of temples with the sky, coupled with recorded lunar and planetary data, created a reliable and repeatable calendar system that guided the society. Modern scholars can reconstruct Babylonian calendars and confirm their accuracy using software to simulate ancient skies. This demonstrates that temples weren't passive monuments, but active nodes in a network of celestial observation. The sky calendar of ancient Babylon shows how architecture, astronomy, and governance intertwined, and how systematic watching of the heavens could organize time, ritual, and power into a coherent system that persisted for millennia. Knowledge of celestial cycles was embedded in both stone and society, linking human activity directly to the rhythms of the universe. Greek temples were more than places of worship. They were instruments designed to interact with the landscape, sky, and time. From the 7th century BCE onward, architects considered not only the form of the building, but its relationship to the horizon. Temples were often positioned to face specific celestial events, whether the rising of the sun on a solstice, the setting of a particular star, or the alignment of a lunar phase. These choices reflected mythology, seasonal cycles, and human activity. The Parthenon in Athens, though primarily aligned east-west, was carefully sited, so sunlight would illuminate the statue of Athena at key times of the year. Temples on Delphi and Delos were oriented to blend with mountainous landscapes or coastal horizons, creating a dialogue between architecture and natural topography. Alignment was functional as well as symbolic. Festivals and civic rituals were timed to seasonal changes, and temple orientation provided visual cues for when to begin these events. The rising sun or a particular star marked planting seasons, maritime expeditions, or religious ceremonies. Ancient Greeks understood that the horizon was a predictable measure of time. Observing the first light or the return of a star allowed them to synchronize human activity with cosmic cycles. This knowledge was preserved through oral tradition, inscriptions, and architectural practice, rather than written astronomical tables alone. In many cases, temple orientation encoded myth. The path of the sun or a star might be linked to a deity's story. Apollo at Delphi was associated with the sun, and his temple's position reinforced the narrative of light, order, and prophecy. Similarly, temples to Artemis often faced natural features believed to mark her domain, connecting ritual with geography and celestial timing. Greek architects also accounted for practical observation. Elevated platforms, open courtyards, and sightlines ensured that celestial events were visible from specific positions. This attention to detail created predictable interactions between sunlight and interior spaces. Alignments were tested across seasons and generations. Evidence from sites like Naxos and Priene shows that temples maintained consistent orientation even as reconstructions or expansions occurred. This demonstrates that alignment was intentional and considered critical to the function of the sanctuary. The logic of the horizon extended beyond individual buildings. City planning sometimes reflected solar and stellar patterns, aligning streets or civic spaces with prominent celestial markers. This integration reinforced the perception that human society was part of a larger cosmic order. Modern archaeoastronomy confirms that Greek temple alignments are not random. Observed angles correspond with ancient risings and settings of celestial bodies as they would have appeared in the classical period. This confirms that Greek architects and priests combined landscape, myth, and seasonal timing to produce spaces where stone, sky, and ritual converged. Greek temples stand as evidence that ancient builders could turn architecture into a device for observing, interpreting, and celebrating the heavens. In this way, human culture and the cosmos were made visible to one another through precise orientation, careful observation, and enduring design. Delphi was designed to make the sky feel present on Earth. Perched on the slopes of Mount Parnassus by the 6th century BCE, the sanctuary combined natural landscape and architectural orientation to create a sense of cosmic order. The Temple of Apollo faced a specific direction so that sunlight, wind, and mountain contours interacted in predictable ways with the interior space. The timing of solar illumination within the sanctuary amplified the perception that prophecies delivered there were sanctioned by the cosmos itself. Visitors arriving during festivals or consultations would notice light falling precisely on the altar or statue at particular moments of the day or year. This alignment created a visual language in which human and celestial patterns appeared connected. Ancient Greek observers understood that precision in placement was not supernatural, but disciplined. Priests and architects studied the rising and setting of the sun, observed the moon's cycles, and noted star positions to guide construction and ritual. The natural slope of the terrain was incorporated into the layout, ensuring that sightlines to key horizon points were maintained. This created a sanctuary in which movement, observation, and seasonal timing converged. Delphi's position was also symbolic. The sanctuary was believed to mark the omphalos, or center of the world, a conceptual hub linking earth and sky. Alignments reinforced this claim. As the sun moved across the sky, light and shadow traced patterns across columns and altars, reinforcing authority and ritual timing. People experiencing these effects would intuitively sense order and sanction without the need for magical explanation. Written inscriptions and accounts from the 5th and 4th centuries BCE describe festivals and oracle consultations, timed with solstices and equinoxes. These occasions were anchored in observation, creating continuity across years and generations. By predicting when light would strike a particular point, or when a lunar phase indicated the proper moment, priests appeared to control access to divine insight. This reliability reinforced confidence in their authority. Modern archaeoastronomy confirms that the orientation of Delphi's temple and terraces aligns with solar extremes as they would have appeared in classical antiquity. This demonstrates that the sanctuary's placement was carefully calculated rather than arbitrary. The result was an experience in which the patterns of the heavens appeared embedded within the built and natural environment. Visitors felt as though the gods themselves had chosen the moment and the place. In this way, Delphi became both a center of practical astronomy and social authority. People came for prophecy, but left with a reinforced sense of order, legitimacy, and timing tied to observable celestial patterns. The sanctuary shows how careful placement and orientation of a site can shape perception, creating power through predictable interactions between architecture, landscape, and the sky. Delphi reminds us that in the ancient world, human design and cosmic patterns were intertwined. By positioning temples and sacred spaces with precision, ancient Greeks made prophecy feel real, sanctioned, and inevitable, bridging earth and the heavens without relying on supernatural mechanics. Roman religion inherited much from earlier civilizations, borrowing myths, symbols, and astronomical associations from Etruscan, Greek, and even Near Eastern cultures. By the 8th century, BCE Rome was already integrating celestial cycles into civic life. Temples were constructed not randomly, but with orientation that reflected solar, lunar, or stellar patterns. The Temple of Jupiter. Optimus Maximus on the Capitoline Hill, for example, faced the sunrise on specific festival days, reinforcing both religious and political authority. Urban planning in Rome also followed celestial logic. Streets, forums, and sacred precincts were often aligned to cardinal points or key horizon markers. This alignment was functional as well as symbolic. Festivals, sacrifices, and public ceremonies were timed to correspond with seasonal events, such as solstices or equinoxes, creating a shared rhythm across the city. Roman priests, particularly the augurs and pontiffs, observed the sky carefully to predict omens and guide public decisions. Their observations were recorded and became part of the ritual calendar, or fasti, which dictated when political actions, military campaigns, and religious rites could occur. By linking temples and urban layouts to celestial events, Rome effectively ritualized time, embedding cosmic order into everyday life. This integration reinforced authority. When citizens witnessed ceremonies synchronized with solar events, they experienced the divine as validation of the state's power. Temples acted as anchors, where time could be observed, measured, and enacted. Roman builders often incorporated Greek architectural styles and orientations, importing the logic of the horizon and the solar calendar. The Pantheon, rebuilt in 26 BCE under Agrippa, and later in 120 CE under Hadrian, demonstrates this influence. Its oculus allows sunlight to penetrate and mark specific interior points, reflecting the solar cycle in a controlled, ritualized setting. Temples dedicated to Mars, Venus, and other deities also incorporated celestial alignments that reinforced mythic narratives within public space. Augurs observed birds, stars, and clouds, interpreting patterns as signs from the gods. These readings were communicated during ceremonies, integrating observation with urban performance. Roman calendar reform, such as the Julian calendar instituted by Julius Caesar in 46 BCE, further codified this connection between sky, temple, and civic life. By standardizing the solar year and intercalating days, Rome synchronized ritual observance with astronomical reality, embedding celestial cycles into civil administration. This demonstrates that Roman religion was not static, but adapted, preserving earlier astronomical symbolism while using urban planning, temple placement, and observation to shape social and political behavior. Knowledge of the sky became authority. Temples were more than buildings. They were instruments that connected myth, civic order, and cosmic observation. In Rome, the heavens regulated human life, marking not only time, but legitimacy. The borrowed sky of Rome shows how observation, architecture, and ritual combined to create a society where cosmic order and urban life were inseparable, guiding citizens and rulers alike in predictable patterns of belief and authority. In ancient India, temples were more than places of worship. They were living diagrams of the cosmos. From at least the first millennium BCE, Hindu and Buddhist architects designed structures so that orientation, iconography, and spatial layout reflected the movements of the sun, moon, and sacred cycles of time. The main axis of a temple typically points east toward the rising sun, symbolizing rebirth and divine energy. During festivals, sunlight entering the doorway illuminates the central deity, creating a visual marker of seasonal timing. Stepwells and water tanks were often aligned with solstices or lunar cycles, integrating practical observation of time into sacred architecture. Iconography reinforced astronomical knowledge. Carvings of celestial beings, planets, and zodiac signs marked the walls and ceilings, guiding priests and devotees in understanding the cosmic order. Temples functioned as calendars where ritual, agriculture, and civic life were coordinated according to observations of the heavens. Sites like the Sun Temple at Konark, built in the 13th century CE, demonstrate this principle. Its chariot-like design and alignment with the horizon were intended to capture sunlight at specific times of the year, marking seasonal festivals and religious ceremonies. Earlier temples from the Gupta period also show careful planning in orientation and proportionality to reflect cosmological concepts described in texts like the Vastu Shastra and Surya Siddhanta. Astronomical knowledge was preserved not only through observation, but encoded in architecture. Towers, mandapas, and gateways were positioned to frame the sun or moon at solstices and equinoxes, making each temple a functional instrument of timekeeping. This system created continuity across generations, as successive expansions maintained the original celestial orientation. Priests used the architecture to schedule rituals and educate the population about the cycles of the year. The temple itself became a teaching tool, embedding astronomical knowledge into public life. Even distant devotees could observe the position of light and shadow, confirming the reliability of sacred time. Modern studies using archaeoastronomy show that many South Asian temples align with solar extremes and lunar standstills, as they would have appeared at the time of construction. This confirms that builders combined observation with sophisticated geometrical planning. In India, sacred space was inseparable from cosmic order. Temples acted as physical models of the universe, connecting human activity with celestial rhythm. Festivals, agricultural planning, and ritual observances were synchronized with this system, demonstrating that knowledge of the heavens was central to society. The architecture transformed observation into ritual experience, ensuring that every visitor, priest, or ruler engaged with the sky's cycles. In this way, India's temples were astronomical diagrams, bridging stone and star, human action and cosmic time, and preserving the rhythm of the heavens within the heart of the sacred landscape. Ujjain has been called the heart of time in India for centuries. Located on the banks of the Shipra River, it was a center for astronomy and calendar making from at least the first millennium BCE. The city's geography was carefully selected to provide clear horizons and stable observation points, making it ideal for tracking the sun, moon, and planets. Temples and observatories were integrated into the urban landscape so that sacred and civic spaces reinforced one another. The famous observatory of Maharaja Jai Singh II, built in the 18th century CE, continued a tradition that had been active for over 1,000 years. Instruments like the gnomon, shadow plates, and meridian markers allowed precise calculation of solstices, equinoxes, and planetary positions. Priests and scholars used these observations to regulate ritual calendars, ensuring festivals aligned with cosmic cycles. The city itself acted as a living instrument, connecting temple placement, street layout, and civic planning with astronomical observation. Temples faced key horizons so that light marked seasonal events, and public spaces allowed citizens to witness celestial phenomena. Ancient texts, including the Surya Siddhanta and other astronomical treatises, were studied and applied in Ujjain to maintain accurate calendars. This knowledge shaped social life, agriculture, and religious observances. Accurate timing was essential for planting and harvesting, as well as for the performance of sacred rituals that were believed to sustain cosmic order. The city's continued use as a reference point for longitude and time in India demonstrates the enduring importance of its observational network. Pilgrims and scholars visiting Ujjain could see how sacred geography and astronomy intersected. Light entering temple doorways on specific dates confirmed the rhythm of the year. Observations of lunar phases, eclipses, and planetary alignments allowed predictions of future events, reinforcing trust in both knowledge and religious authority. Ujjain illustrates how a city could function as a living calendar. The physical layout, combined with observation, ensured continuity of timekeeping across generations. Priests recorded patterns, and temples acted as anchors for celestial measurement. Modern archaeoastronomy confirms that many temples and platforms in Ujjain were deliberately oriented to capture solar extremes and lunar standstills, as they would have appeared centuries ago. The integration of sacred space with practical observation created a system where the heavens regulated both human behavior and religious practice. Ujjain demonstrates that ancient Indian cities weren't merely settlements, but instruments of cosmic synchronization. Every street, temple, and observatory was a tool for measuring, marking, and validating the cycles of the sun, moon, and planets. The city's layout preserved knowledge and ensured that human life remained in step with the cosmos. Ujjain stands as a testament to the fusion of sacred geography and systematic observation, showing that in India, time itself was both measured and celebrated, and that the city could be read as a map of the heavens anchored firmly on earth. Angkor in Cambodia demonstrates how architecture and landscape were combined to follow the sun's path and reinforce royal authority. From the 9th century CE onward, Khmer kings built temple complexes such as Angkor Wat with careful attention to orientation. The central axis of Angkor Wat faces west, a direction associated with Vishnu and funerary ritual, while other temples align to the rising and setting sun on significant dates. This alignment created predictable patterns of light and shadow that punctuated ceremonial spaces. As the sun moved across the sky throughout the year, its position along temple axes marked solstices and equinoxes, establishing a ritual calendar visible to both priests and citizens. These solar paths were not only symbolic, but functional. Kingship was presented as divinely sanctioned when sunlight illuminated shrines and statues at specific moments, visually connecting the ruler with the cosmos. Hydraulic engineering and urban planning were also integrated into this system. Reservoirs, canals, and causeways aligned with temples and cardinal directions, creating a landscape where water, stone, and sunlight worked together to reinforce social order and agricultural timing. The Khmer carefully studied solar movement over years, observing horizon points to determine correct temple orientation. Construction incorporated elevated platforms, long sightlines, and central sanctuaries positioned so that sunlight would penetrate deep interiors at the right moment. This required precise planning, because any misalignment could disrupt the intended illumination and symbolic effect. In addition, inscriptions and bas-reliefs record ceremonies tied to celestial timing, showing that observation of the sun was an essential element of state ritual. The alignment of Angkor's temples demonstrates continuity across reigns. Successive kings respected and expanded existing layouts while preserving solar axes, ensuring that the ritual calendar remained accurate over centuries. Modern studies confirm that many of Angkor's main temples align with the sun's position on solstices, as it would have appeared when the complexes were first constructed. This shows that Khmer architects combined astronomy, geometry, and landscape design into a unified system. Angkor illustrates how monumental design could merge ritual, political authority, and celestial observation. Light and shadow reinforced belief, guided ceremonies, and validated power without any mechanical intervention. Citizens and visiting dignitaries experienced the passage of the sun as a tangible marker of cosmic order. The city and its temples were instruments through which time was measured, celebrated, and performed. Angkor reveals that in Southeast Asia, kingship was inseparable from the solar cycle, and the landscape itself became a tool for projecting authority, structuring ritual, and aligning human activity with the rhythms of the heavens. The sun's royal path shaped every aspect of life, demonstrating the power of architecture to make the cosmos legible on Earth. Mesoamerican societies mastered the sky to organize life on Earth. From roughly the 1st century CE onward, civilizations like the Maya, Zapotec, and Aztec constructed ceremonial centers that functioned as precise solar calendars. Observing the sun's rising and setting points at key times of the year allowed these cultures to predict solstices, equinoxes, and seasonal shifts essential for agriculture. At sites such as Chichen Itza, the Pyramid of El Castillo demonstrates intentional design that interacts with sunlight. Twice a year, during the equinoxes, sunlight casts shadows along the steps, creating the illusion of a serpent descending the pyramid, linking architecture to celestial cycles and mythic symbolism. Similar alignments appear at Uxmal, Monte Alban, and Teotihuacan, where plazas, pyramids, and ball courts are oriented to horizon markers. Observation points were carefully chosen to track the sun's movement. Elevated platforms, sightlines, and long causeways provided consistent references for tracking seasonal change over decades. These measurements were recorded through codices, stelae, and oral tradition, forming a cumulative body of knowledge passed across generations. Calendars based on solar observation were critical for planting and harvesting maize, the foundation of Mesoamerican sustenance. Festivals and rituals timed to solar events reinforced social cohesion and political authority. Kings and priests used these alignments to demonstrate cosmic approval of their rule. Accuracy was not accidental. Archaeological surveys confirm that many ceremonial centers are aligned to the horizon points of solstices and equinoxes as they would have appeared centuries ago. Even minor deviations were corrected in subsequent construction phases, showing deliberate planning and precise measurement. In addition to the sun, the Maya observed Venus and other celestial bodies for ritual and calendrical purposes. Temples acted as both religious and astronomical instruments, where light and shadow were part of a sophisticated system for regulating human activity according to celestial patterns. Public participation in observing these events reinforced collective understanding of time. When sunlight struck specific temple niches or pyramidal steps, the population witnessed the synchronization of human and cosmic order. Knowledge of the sky was power. Those who could predict agricultural cycles and ritual timing controlled both sustenance and authority. The integration of architecture, observation, and ritual created a durable system that endured even as dynasties changed. Modern archaeoastronomy has confirmed these solar alignments, revealing that Mesoamerican societies achieved levels of precision comparable to ancient Egypt and India, without instruments beyond observation, measurement, and geometry. Ceremonial centers weren't passive structures, but active calendars. Each construction phase encoded time and cosmic order into stone, guiding both ritual and practical life. Mesoamerica's solar precision demonstrates that architecture, astronomy, and social governance were inseparable. By observing and encoding the sun's path, these civilizations ensured survival, reinforced hierarchy, and connected human action directly to the rhythms of the sky. Chichen Itza demonstrates how architecture could turn sunlight into a spectacle of cosmic order. The pyramid known as El Castillo was constructed by the Maya around the 9th century CE, with an axis precisely oriented to capture the sun's position during the equinoxes. Twice a year, as the sun sets, light falls along the northwest corner of the pyramid steps, creating the illusion of a serpent descending toward the earth. This effect aligns with the carved serpent heads at the base of the staircase, connecting myth, ritual, and celestial observation. The design required exact measurement and understanding of the sun's annual movement. Builders observed the horizon and marked key points where shadows would fall, ensuring that centuries later the phenomenon still occurs. This was more than decoration. It communicated cosmic order to anyone present. Crowds witnessing the alignment would see a tangible connection between the sky, the pyramid, and divine authority. It reinforced the role of priests and rulers who orchestrated ceremonies at the precise moment the serpent appeared. The phenomenon also acted as a calendar marker. Its timing signaled the onset of important agricultural and ritual cycles, guiding planting, harvest, and festival activity. Other buildings and plazas in Chichen Itza complement the pyramid's alignment, creating a city where urban planning, ritual, and astronomy are inseparable. Observation platforms and causeways were positioned to track the sun and other celestial bodies. Temples and ball courts were carefully placed so that solstice and equinox events produced predictable light and shadow patterns across architectural surfaces. The Maya recorded these alignments and their significance in codices and stelae, preserving knowledge across generations. Modern archaeoastronomy confirms that the pyramid's alignment corresponds accurately with the equinox sun as it would have appeared when it was first built, demonstrating intentionality rather than coincidence. The El Castillo pyramid transforms natural phenomena into social performance. The descent of the serpent was a visual reminder of the connection between human society and celestial cycles. It conveyed authority and reinforced ritual hierarchy without the need for verbal explanation. Participation was experiential. Those who observed understood that order and time were measured by the cosmos and enacted through architecture. The precision of this effect shows the Maya mastery of geometry, observation, and construction. Every step, every corner, and every carved detail was calculated to produce the intended interaction with sunlight. Chichen Itza illustrates how architecture can stage celestial phenomena to educate, guide, and inspire communities. Light became a tool for ritual, a marker of time, and a medium for expressing power. The serpent of light demonstrates that in the Maya world, the heavens weren't distant or abstract. They were visible, measurable, and deeply intertwined with social, religious, and political life. Chichen Itza remains a living testament to the ability of ancient builders to make cosmic order visible through precise architectural design. Teotihuacan is an example of a city built with the sky in mind. Founded around the 1st century CE, its urban grid was carefully aligned along an axis that deviates slightly from true north, corresponding to the setting of the Pleiades star cluster over the horizon as it would have appeared at that time. The Avenue of the Dead, the main thoroughfare, connects the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon, creating a processional path where movement through the city mirrored celestial observation. As the sun rose and set, its light interacted with the pyramids and plazas in ways that marked solstices and other significant points in the solar calendar. This alignment turned everyday movement along the avenue into a ritual performance, reinforcing social hierarchy and cosmological understanding. Temples, residential compounds, and smaller platforms were positioned to maintain this orientation, creating a cohesive network where architecture, urban planning, and astronomy were inseparable. The Pyramid of the Sun, the largest structure, was oriented so that shadows and light changes on its terraces corresponded with the solar cycle, providing visual markers for ceremonial activity. Archaeological evidence shows that Teotihuacan's planners had long-term knowledge of astronomy and geometry, enabling them to integrate celestial patterns into a sprawling cityscape that could accommodate tens of thousands of residents. Observations of the horizon, the movement of stars, and solar positions were incorporated into construction, ensuring that rituals, festivals, and civic gatherings aligned with cosmic cycles. The Pyramid of the Moon also anchors the northern end of the Avenue of the Dead, framing the sky and reinforcing the city's role as a cosmic center. Religious, political, and social life were intertwined through this alignment, creating an environment where daily movement reflected celestial order. Street intersections, temple orientations, and ceremonial spaces allowed observers to witness solar and stellar phenomena while participating in structured civic life. Modern archaeoastronomy confirms that Teotihuacan's grid corresponds to astronomical events significant to Mesoamerican culture, including solstices and the appearance of important stars. This demonstrates that city planning was intentional, not coincidental. The design allowed priests and rulers to use the environment as a teaching tool, communicating time, season, and divine order through architecture. Teotihuacan shows how a city itself can become an instrument for observing the heavens. Residents experience the movement of the sun and stars as part of everyday life, and processions along the Avenue of the Dead transformed into ritualized engagements with cosmic order. The city exemplifies the integration of urban space, religious authority, and astronomy, revealing that in Mesoamerica, urban planning was a medium for connecting human activity with celestial rhythms. Teotihuacan demonstrates that the heavens can shape both the physical and social landscape, turning streets, plazas, and pyramids into a city-sized observatory, where daily life and ritual are inseparable from the sky. In the Andes, the sun was both ruler and measure of time. Long before the rise of the Inca Empire in the 15th century, sea Andean peoples observed the horizon with great care, marking solstices and equinoxes with pillars, stones, and ceremonial platforms. Sites like Chavin de Huanta, Tiwanaku, and later Cusco were oriented so that sunlight aligned with sacred markers on key dates, signaling the return of the sun and the rhythm of the agricultural year. Horizon points were carefully chosen to mark where the sun rose or set at solstices, and pillars or carved stones provided precise reference points for observers. These alignments had practical and ceremonial importance. They indicated when to plant and harvest crops such as maize, potatoes, and quinoa, and they synchronized festivals and state rituals that reinforced political authority. Observers would gather at temple plazas or atop platforms to witness the sun's position relative to these markers, linking human activity to celestial patterns. The Inca built the Coricancha in Cusco with walls and windows oriented so sunlight penetrated specific chambers at solstice sunrise, visually confirming the alignment and connecting the ruler to divine favor. Similarly, at Machu Picchu structures like Intihuatana stones acted as solar indicators. Shadows cast by these carved pillars showed precise moments of solar zenith, functioning as both calendar and sacred instrument. These practices required systematic observation over years. Priests or astronomer priests noted the sun's path along the horizon, marking key dates that repeated annually. Knowledge was transmitted through oral tradition, ritual practice, and architectural continuity rather than written records. The alignment of ceremonial sites also reinforced state power. When the sun illuminated sacred stones or temple niches, it symbolically sanctioned the ruler and the social hierarchy. People witnessing these events understood that human order was in harmony with cosmic order. Modern archaeoastronomy confirms that many Andean sites align accurately with solar extremes, as they would have appeared when first constructed, showing intentional design rather than coincidence. The integration of landscape, architecture, and observation created a system in which natural phenomena regulated agriculture, ritual, and social organization. Even remote settlements use smaller horizon markers and stones to track solar cycles, demonstrating the widespread importance of this knowledge. The Andes reveal a sophisticated understanding of the sun's movement and its social and political implications. By combining observation, architecture, and ceremony, Andean societies transformed the horizon into a tool for measuring time and expressing authority. The sun's return marked the rhythm of life, and sacred markers ensured that both people and rulers aligned themselves with the celestial order. Andean traditions show that architecture and landscape were not merely practical, but instrumental in linking human society to the cycles of the heavens, turning observation into ritual and solar motion into the backbone of state ceremony and social cohesion. Chanquillo in Peru is one of the clearest examples of a solar observatory in the ancient world. Built around the 4th century BCE, the site consists of 13 stone towers arranged along a hilltop ridge. These towers function as a precise tool for tracking the sun's annual movement. Observers standing at fixed points in the surrounding area could watch the sun rise or set over specific towers, marking each day of the year with remarkable accuracy. The arrangement allowed the sun's position to be monitored from solstice to solstice, effectively creating a full solar calendar. The tower's simplicity demonstrates that sophisticated astronomical observation does not require complex instruments. Each tower serves as a visual marker. As the sun moves along the horizon, its alignment with individual towers indicates the progression of the year. This knowledge was critical for regulating agricultural cycles, ritual events, and social activities. Seasonal changes dictated planting and harvesting of maize, beans, and other staple crops. Ceremonial activities could also be timed to coincide with solar positions, reinforcing both religious and political authority. The location of Chanquillo was chosen carefully. Its hilltop position provides unobstructed views of the eastern and western horizons, where the sun rises and sets. Lines of sight from observation points to the towers were calibrated to ensure accurate marking of each day. Archaeological studies confirm that the tower's alignment corresponds to solar extremes, as they would have appeared at the time of construction. This shows deliberate design rather than coincidence. Chankilo illustrates that even without writing or mechanical tools, ancient societies could measure time with high precision. Observers could track the sun's gradual movement and anticipate changes in season. The system also reinforced social cohesion. Knowledge of solar patterns was centralized among priests or elites who interpreted the sun's journey and directed agricultural and ritual activity. Ordinary people could observe the towers and gain a shared understanding of time, integrating the rhythm of the sun into daily life. Modern researchers have used computer simulations to confirm that Chankilo functions as a continuous solar observatory, recording the sun's position throughout the year. The clarity and precision of the alignment make it unique among ancient sites in the Americas. The 13 towers demonstrate that ancient knowledge of solar cycles was practical, scientific, and socially embedded. Chankilo shows how a simple architectural design can transform a hilltop into a year-long calendar, linking observation of the sky to human activity. The site confirms that astronomy was integral to governance, ritual, and survival. By marking the sun's journey with stone towers, the builders of Chankilo created a lasting record of cosmic order that guided the rhythms of society and agriculture with precision and reliability. Polynesian cultures developed an extraordinary knowledge of the stars to navigate the vast Pacific Ocean. Long before European contact in the 16th century CE, voyagers relied on the positions of stars, planets, and the rising and setting points on the horizon to travel between islands, separated by hundreds or thousands of kilometers. Star paths were memorized and passed down orally through generations, forming a practical and sacred system of sky literacy. Navigators used constellations to determine direction, latitude, and seasonal timing. Observation was meticulous. Each star or constellation had a specific place on the horizon and rose or set at precise times of the year, signaling the correct moment for voyages or seasonal activity. Sacred spaces, such as marae or stone markers on islands, were often aligned with key stars or celestial events. These sites reinforced navigation knowledge, allowing both novices and experienced voyagers to practice observation and remember critical alignments. Polynesians combined these celestial markers with ocean swells, wind patterns, and bird behavior to maintain course over open water. Knowledge of the sky was inseparable from survival. Misreading the stars could mean losing an entire voyage. Star charts were mental maps, encoded with mnemonic devices, chants, and patterns that linked the night sky to geography and direction. Communities celebrated and taught this knowledge through ritual and ceremony, ensuring continuity over generations. Observations were cumulative, refined through repeated voyages and careful attention to the changing position of stars over the year. This system also structured seasonal events. The timing of planting, fishing, and ceremonial gatherings corresponded to specific stellar appearances, linking human activity to cosmic rhythm. By integrating sacred and practical observation, Polynesian societies created a holistic understanding of the world, where astronomy guided both survival and cultural life. Modern studies confirm that traditional star paths accurately represent the positions of stars and celestial bodies as they would have appeared centuries ago. This shows that Polynesians were not only observers, but skilled astronomers who translated celestial movement into actionable knowledge. Sacred spaces reinforced this education by providing fixed reference points aligned with significant stars, allowing learners to anchor abstract knowledge in physical locations. Star knowledge was therefore both practical and cultural, connecting navigation, ceremony, and societal structure. The Polynesian system demonstrates that mastery of the sky can govern everyday life, inform political and social decisions, and guide exploration over vast distances. Star paths were the foundation of identity, survival, and cosmology. By observing the night sky and embedding this understanding in architecture, ritual, and oral tradition, Polynesians ensured that each generation could navigate the ocean safely while maintaining a connection to the heavens. In this way, celestial literacy was sacred, practical, and life-sustaining, making the stars central to both culture and survival across the Pacific. In ancient China, astronomy was central to political authority. From the Zhou dynasty in the 11th century BCE onward, the emperor was regarded as the son of heaven, responsible for maintaining harmony between the cosmos and human society. Observing the sky was therefore a matter of state. Imperial astronomers recorded the positions of stars, planets, eclipses, and comets to predict seasonal changes and verify the emperor's legitimacy. The construction of observatories near capitals allowed systematic monitoring of celestial phenomena. Instruments such as gnomons, armillary spheres, and sighting tubes were used to measure solar and lunar cycles, ensuring accurate calendars for agriculture, taxation, and ritual. The Chinese calendar linked political and ritual events to precise astronomical observation. Solstices and equinoxes marked key ceremonies in which the emperor offered sacrifices to heaven, demonstrating alignment with cosmic order. Failing to predict eclipses or other celestial events could be interpreted as a loss of the mandate of heaven, threatening the ruler's legitimacy. Temples and altars were often constructed with orientation to cardinal points and horizon markers, reinforcing the connection between architecture, observation, and political authority. Written records from the Han Dynasty, beginning in the 2nd century BCE, describe daily observations, detailed star catalogues, and astronomical treatises that informed decision-making at the highest level. Observations were meticulously recorded and compared year to year, creating continuity across centuries. The emperor's role as celestial mediator meant that every action, from ritual offerings to the announcement of festivals, was tied to precise timing determined by the sky. Modern research confirms that Chinese observatories, such as those in Beijing and Xi'an, were aligned with solar and stellar positions as they would have appeared in antiquity, highlighting intentional planning and sophisticated knowledge. Astronomy was therefore a pillar of governance, linking celestial observation directly to social order, agriculture, and political legitimacy. The emperor's authority was inseparable from the rhythms of the heavens, and citizens experienced the consequences of cosmic alignment through festival timing, agricultural cycles, and ritual practices. Imperial rituals reinforced both the observation of celestial events and the belief that the ruler acted in harmony with the universe. This system ensured stability by embedding knowledge of the sky into the daily and ceremonial life of the state. China's integration of astronomy into governance illustrates that celestial observation was not merely scientific, but deeply political. Temples, observatories, and calendars functioned together to confirm the emperor's mandate of heaven. The alignment of structures, instruments, and ritual ensured that cosmic order and human society were interconnected. In this way, astronomy provided a visible framework for political authority, agricultural success, and religious observance. Chinese civilization demonstrates that mastery of the sky was a tool for maintaining social cohesion, legitimizing rulers, and connecting human action to cosmic patterns. Across centuries, observing, recording, and acting upon the sky was both a scientific and political practice, securing the state through knowledge of the heavens. Precession is a subtle movement of the Earth that gradually shifts the position of stars over long periods of time. Known to modern astronomy since the 2nd century BCE, when Hipparchus first measured it, precession causes the celestial poles and equinox points to slowly drift in a cycle of roughly 26,000 years. This means that the position of stars and constellations changes slightly each century, and the sun's position against the background stars on a given date slowly moves over time. For ancient observers who aligned temples, pyramids, and ceremonial centers with stars or solstices, precession can explain why some alignments no longer match the modern sky. A temple built 3,000 years ago to mark the rising of a particular star at solstice might today appear slightly off, because the star itself has shifted along the horizon due to precession. The effect is slow but cumulative, amounting to roughly 1 degree every 72 years. This requires historians and archaeoastronomers to carefully account for time when studying ancient alignments. Sites in Egypt, Mesopotamia, Mesoamerica, and India that were precisely aligned in antiquity may appear misaligned to modern observers if precession is not considered. Understanding precession allows researchers to reconstruct the skies as they would have appeared at the time of construction, revealing the accuracy and intention of ancient builders. For example, the alignment of the Great Pyramid of Giza to true north matches the pole star of its era, rather than Polaris, which is closer to the celestial pole today. Similarly, Chanquillo's 13 towers in Peru align with the sun's annual path as it would have appeared more than 2,000 years ago, and adjustments for precession confirm the precision of these solar markers. Precession also affects the timing of eclipses, the positions of planets, and the interpretation of ancient texts describing celestial events. Ancient astronomers observed patterns over decades and centuries, often recording adjustments to account for slight shifts in the heavens. Temples, observatories, and horizon markers were therefore not static references, but part of a long-term observational strategy that accounted for the slow drift of the sky. Modern archaeoastronomy uses precession calculations to date construction phases, verify celestial intent, and understand why some alignments appear imperfect today. Precession demonstrates that the sky is not fixed, but a dynamic reference that changes over millennia, challenging assumptions that modern positions reflect ancient intent. By accounting for this drift, researchers can appreciate the sophistication of ancient astronomical knowledge and the precision with which societies measured and ritualized time. Precession reminds us that the relationship between Earth and sky is subtle and enduring, and that ancient civilizations built their monuments with an understanding of cycles that extended far beyond a human lifetime. Studying precession allows us to recover the original vision of builders who used architecture, horizon, and celestial observation to connect society with the cosmos. The term Stargate is a modern way of describing what ancient builders accomplished through precise alignments and architecture. Across civilizations from Egypt and Mesopotamia to Mesoamerica and Polynesia temples, pyramids and ceremonial centers were designed to interact with celestial events. Sunlight, moonlight, and starlight were carefully timed to enter chambers, illuminate altars, or cast shadows, along steps creating controlled experiences for observers. Horizons were framed with pillars, platforms, and sightlines to guide the eye to significant points of the sky. Communities gathered to witness these phenomena and participate in rituals that reinforced social order, political authority, and religious meaning. The effect was immersive. Light and shadow, motion of celestial bodies, and architectural framing combined to make heaven feel physically and symbolically accessible. Observers experienced the passing of time and the cycles of the cosmos in real time, understanding their lives as part of a larger celestial rhythm. Alignments weren't random or purely symbolic. Archaeological evidence shows that structures like Abu Simbel, Karnak, Chankilo, and Angkor were oriented with exacting precision to mark solstices, equinoxes, and planetary events as they would have appeared when first constructed. Measurements of horizon points, gnomons, and sightlines demonstrate systematic observation sustained over years or generations. Ritual calendars depended on these alignments to schedule festivals, agricultural work, and state ceremonies. Participating in these events validated authority, taught cosmic order, and reinforced collective memory. In addition, alignments often linked multiple sites. Processional avenues, terraces, and complementary structures created networks where movement through space mirrored movement through time and sky. Observing the progression of sunlight or the rising of specific stars connected human activity to celestial cycles, creating a bridge between Earth and sky. Modern archaeoastronomy confirms that these alignments were intentional, showing a sophisticated understanding of astronomy, geometry, and human perception. Ancient observers integrated measurement, observation, and ritual into spaces that communicated knowledge visually, experientially, and communally. The Stargate concept unites these practices. By framing light, movement, and horizon, builders created a medium through which the heavens could be experienced directly. Ritual, architecture, and astronomy were inseparable. Across time and geography, societies used this approach to teach, inspire, and structure human life, according to cosmic patterns. The Stargate was therefore not a portal in a literal sense, but a carefully orchestrated interface between human perception and the sky. It allowed communities to witness the regularity and majesty of celestial events, transforming observation into ritual, learning into participation, and space into a shared experience of cosmic order. By understanding Stargates, we see how architecture, astronomy, and human culture were intertwined, making the heavens tangible and meaningful for every generation that passed through these sacred spaces. Modern archaeology and archaeoastronomy allow us to read ancient stone as a record of the sky. Sites from Egypt, Mesopotamia, India, Mesoamerica, and Polynesia preserve alignments that reveal centuries of careful observation and design. By measuring orientations, sight lines, and horizon markers, researchers can reconstruct the position of the sun, moon, and stars as they appeared when these structures were built. Techniques such as radiocarbon dating stratigraphy and dendrochronology provide chronological context, helping to match architectural features with historical celestial events. Digital simulations and planetarium software allow scholars to test alignments with precision, verifying solstice equinox and stellar observations across millennia. This evidence shows that ancient builders were meticulous astronomers, capable of integrating geometry, observation, and ritual into permanent stone structures. At Chanquillo in Peru, the 13 towers mark the sun's journey throughout the year as it would have appeared more than 2,000 years ago. In Egypt, the alignment of temples such as Abu Simbel to the sun at specific dates demonstrates the careful orchestration of light and architecture. In Mesoamerica, pyramids like El Castillo at Chichen Itza create moving shadows that correspond to equinox sunrise and sunset. Observations at Angkor, Machu Picchu, and Polynesian sacred spaces confirm that orientation, horizon, and celestial cycles were integrated into political, agricultural, and ritual life. Modern study does not diminish the wonder of these achievements. Seeing the sun illuminate a niche, cast a shadow along a pyramid, or rise over a horizon point at the correct date connects us to the same experience as those who lived thousands of years ago. Archaeoastronomy allows the verification of intentional design, showing patterns that repeat across continents and cultures, demonstrating the universality of sky observation in human history. By reading stone in this way, we turn awe into evidence without erasing mystery. We understand the precision, the intent, and the social significance of these alignments, while still marveling at the ingenuity required to achieve them. Dating and measurement reveal patterns, but they also raise questions about how knowledge was transmitted, how builders observed the sky over decades, and how societies structured ritual and authority around celestial events. The last doorway is not a physical gate, but the interpretive process that lets us enter the minds and methods of ancient observers. Stone, carefully aligned and positioned, becomes a record of human engagement with the heavens, a chronicle encoded in geometry, shadow, and horizon. Archaeology and archaeoastronomy together allow us to witness this record, connect past and present, and appreciate the sophistication of ancient sky watchers. By studying alignments across time and space, we see that the heavens were a universal reference, shaping architecture, ritual, and social organization. The mystery remains in the experience, the wonder remains in the precision, and the record remains in stone, offering us a final doorway to understand how ancient civilizations read, measured, and revered the sky.